I knew something was wrong when I started waking up on the couch at 3 in the morning with no memory of getting there. The first time it happened, I blamed age. 63 isn't ancient, but it's old enough that your body starts playing tricks on you. The second time, I thought maybe I'd been sleepwalking. By the fifth time, I knew someone was making it happen. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the hype button, and support this channel with a like, and tell us below. Have you ever faced something like this? My name is Gregory Kane. I spent 40 years designing transport machinery, solving problems that would make your head spin. I taught myself calculus at 16. I rebuilt a motorcycle engine when I was 12. My mind has always been my greatest asset, the one thing I could rely on when everything else failed. So when my wife Maureen started telling me I had dementia, I didn't believe her. "Greg, you forgot to take your pills again," she'd say, holding out a small white capsule and a glass of water. "I don't remember needing pills," I'd answer. "That's the problem, honey. You don't remember a lot of things lately." She'd smile when she said it. That same smile she'd used for 34 years, the one that used to make me feel safe. Now it just made my skin crawl. The house felt different too. Wrong. Like I was living in a place that belonged to someone else. I'd find furniture moved when I could swear it had been somewhere else the day before. Doors I remembered locking would be open in the morning, and every evening after dinner, I'd get so tired I couldn't keep my eyes open. "It's your condition," Travis would say, my son, 32 years old and still living in my house, sleeping in his childhood bedroom like he never grew up. "You need to rest more, Dad. Let us take care of you." Take care of me. Right. I started keeping a journal, writing down everything I could remember about each day. What I ate, what time I went to bed, how I felt. The entries were consistent. Alert in the morning, foggy by afternoon, nearly unconscious by 9 p.m. That's not dementia. That's something else. 3 weeks ago, I ordered a wireless camera online. One of those tiny things you can hide in a bookshelf. Cost me $200 I pulled from an old savings account Maureen didn't know about. When it arrived, I installed it in the living room, tucked behind a row of paperbacks I knew nobody ever touched. Then I waited. That night, Maureen made pork chops for dinner. They were good, seasoned the way I liked them. She brought me my pills with dessert. "Here you go, sweetheart. Don't forget these." I took them from her palm, put them in my mouth, and swallowed with a gulp of water. She watched me the whole time, making sure they went down. What she didn't see was me tucking them under my tongue. As soon as she turned away, I spit them into my napkin and shoved it in my pocket. Then I went upstairs, pretending to be exhausted like always. "Night, Dad," Travis called from the kitchen. I didn't answer, just shuffled to my bedroom, closed the door, and waited. 2 hours later, I was still wide awake. No fog, no drowsiness, just clarity, sharp and cold as broken glass. I crept downstairs and checked the camera feed on my phone. The living room was empty, but I could hear voices coming from the back of the house. Low murmurs, the sound of furniture scraping across the floor. I moved to the hallway and pressed myself against the wall, peering around the corner. My living room had been transformed. 2 card tables sat where my coffee table should have been, surrounded by folding chairs. 8 men I'd never seen before were sitting around them, dealing cards and stacking chips. Cigarette smoke hung in the air, beer bottles crowded the side table. And there, in the middle of it all, was Travis, grinning, shuffling a deck like he owned the place. Maureen stood near the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, watching. I pulled back into the shadows and stood there, heart hammering. They were running a poker game, in my house, while I was supposed to be unconscious upstairs. One of the men, a stocky guy with a shaved head, looked up from his cards. "You sure the old man won't wake up?" Travis laughed. "Dad? No way. He's out cold. Maureen makes sure of it." The room went silent for a second. Then someone else spoke, a thin man with nervous eyes. "What if he does?" "He won't," Maureen said. Her voice was flat, final. "And even if he did, he wouldn't remember in the morning. Trust me." I felt something crack inside my chest, not my heart, something deeper. I went back upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and watched the camera feed until 4 in the morning. I watched them gamble, watched them drink my beer, watched Travis collect cash from each of them at the end of the night. When they finally left, Maureen came upstairs. I heard her pause outside my door, listening. Then she walked away. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about everything I'd lost without realizing it. My clarity, my autonomy, my home. And I decided right then that I was going to take it all back. The next few nights followed the same pattern. I'd pretend to take the pills, hide them, stay awake. The poker games continued, sometimes different people, sometimes the same faces, but always Travis at the center, and always Maureen watching from the sidelines. I started recognizing the regulars. The stocky man with the shaved head everyone called Remy, a tall guy in a leather jacket named Walt, and Craig, who had mean eyes and a way of looking around the room like he was cataloging everything for later use. They talked freely, assuming I was sedated and unconscious 2 floors above them. I heard about debts and payments, about side businesses and arrangements, about how much longer Travis could keep this going before someone came looking for their money, and I heard them talk about me. "How much longer?" Craig asked one night. "Another month, maybe 2, Travis said. "Maureen's working on the paperwork." "Paperwork for what?" "Getting him declared incompetent. Once that goes through, we can move him to a facility. Then the house is ours." The words hit me like cold water. They weren't just using my house. They were planning to take it, to have me locked away somewhere so they could claim everything I'd built. I recorded every word. The next morning, I played the part they expected. I shuffled into the kitchen, squinting like the light hurt my eyes. Maureen was already there, pouring coffee. "Morning," I mumbled. "Good morning, honey. How'd you sleep?" "Fine, I guess." I rubbed my face, making sure I looked confused. "Did I come downstairs last night?" She didn't even blink. "No, sweetheart. You went straight to bed after dinner. Why?" "I don't know. I thought I heard voices." "Probably the TV. Travis was watching a movie." She handed me a mug. "Here, drink this. You'll feel better." I took the coffee and sipped it slowly, watching her over the rim. She looked the same as always. Hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, scrubs from her job at the dental clinic. The same woman I'd married 34 years ago. Except she wasn't. Not anymore. Travis came down an hour later, looking exhausted. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hair sticking up in odd angles. "Late night?" I asked. He shrugged. "Couldn't sleep." "Yeah, me neither." I kept my voice light. Casual. "Thought I heard people talking downstairs." His whole body tensed. Just for a second. Then he forced a smile. "Nah, just me and a movie." "Must have been a loud movie." "Yeah, I'll keep it down next time." I nodded and went back to my coffee, letting the silence stretch. I could feel him watching me, trying to figure out if I actually remembered anything. Good. Let him wonder. After breakfast, I went to my old workshop in the garage. It was one of the few places they hadn't touched, probably because they didn't think there was anything valuable in there. Just tools and half-finished projects I'd been meaning to get back to. I pulled out my journal and wrote down everything I'd seen the night before. Names I'd heard. Descriptions of the men, the layout of the tables, how much money I'd seen changing hands. Then I opened my laptop and checked my bank accounts. Everything was still there. Savings, checking, retirement fund. But there were new charges I didn't recognize. Small ones, $20 here, $50 there. The kind of thing you might miss if you weren't paying attention. Someone was testing the waters, seeing if I'd notice. I took screenshots of everything and saved them to a USB drive. Then I cleared my browser history and shut down the computer. If they wanted to play games, fine. I'd been engineering solutions my whole life. This was just another problem to solve. That afternoon, I went for a walk around the neighborhood. I needed to clear my head, and I wanted to see if anyone was watching me. Maureen had been acting strange whenever I mentioned leaving the house, always finding reasons why I should stay home. "You don't want to overdo it, Greg. Remember what the doctor said." "What doctor?" I hadn't seen a doctor in 6 months. I made it 3 blocks before I noticed the car. A dark blue sedan, parked across the street, tinted windows, engine running. I kept walking, turning at the next corner. The car pulled away from the curb and followed, staying about 50 feet behind. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay calm. I turned again, doubling back toward my house. The car kept pace. Whoever was driving wanted me to know they were there. I cut through a neighbor's yard and came out on a parallel street, losing the car for a few minutes. By the time I got home, I was sweating and my hands were shaking. Maureen was in the kitchen when I came in. "Where were you?" she asked. "Just walking." "You shouldn't go out alone. What if something happened?" "I'm fine." She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not concern, calculation. "I made an appointment for you," she said finally. "With Dr. Brennan, next Tuesday." "I don't need a doctor. Greg, please, just let him check you out. Make sure everything's okay." I wanted to argue, but I bit my tongue. If I pushed too hard, she'd know I was onto them. "Fine," I said. "Whatever you want." She smiled. "Thank you." That night, I pretended to take my pills again. Hid them under my tongue, spit them into a tissue when she wasn't looking. Then I went upstairs and waited. Sure enough, 2 hours later, I heard the front door open. I checked the camera feed. 6 men this time, different faces from the night before, except for one. The stocky guy with the shaved head, Remy. He seemed to be in charge, directing where people should sit. Travis was there again, dealing cards. And Maureen was watching from the kitchen, just like before. I sat in the darkness of my bedroom, recording everything on my phone. The names they used, the slang they threw around, the way they interacted. One of the new guys, a tall man in a leather jacket, kept looking toward the stairs. "You sure he's out?" he asked Travis. "He's always out." "What if he wakes up?" Travis laughed. "Then we tell him he's confused, that it's his dementia. He believes it every time." The tall man didn't look convinced, but he sat down and started playing. I watched them for 3 hours. Watched them bet money I knew Travis didn't have. Watched Maureen bring them drinks and snacks like she was hosting a party. And I started forming a plan. The next day, I installed 2 more cameras. One in the hallway near the stairs, another in the kitchen. I wanted complete coverage of what was happening in my house. I also started documenting my physical symptoms in more detail. Every time I actually took one of the pills they gave me, I'd note how I felt 30 minutes later, an hour later, 2 hours later. The pattern was clear. Progressive drowsiness leading to complete unconsciousness within 90 minutes. These weren't vitamins. They weren't medication for dementia. They were sedatives. Strong ones. I started collecting the pills instead of disposing of them. By the end of the week, I had 14 capsules hidden in my workshop, stored in a small plastic bag I kept inside an old toolbox. Evidence. On Saturday, I found something that changed everything. I was looking for an old technical manual in Travis's room. He'd borrowed it months ago and never returned it. I knew he wasn't home, and Maureen was at work, so I took the opportunity to search. The manual wasn't there. But tucked inside his desk drawer, underneath a stack of magazines, I found a folder. Inside were documents. Legal documents. Commitment papers for involuntary psychiatric evaluation. Forms to declare me mentally incompetent. A petition for guardianship that would give Maureen and Travis complete control over my finances and medical decisions. All of them already filled out, waiting for signatures. There was also a printout of a real estate listing, my house, with an estimated sale price of $420,000. Underneath that was a handwritten note. Split 60-40 after debts cleared. V gets his cut first. V, I didn't know who that was, but I was going to find out. I photographed everything with my phone, then carefully put it all back exactly as I'd found it. When Travis came home that evening, I was in the living room watching TV like nothing had happened. "Hey, Dad," he said. "Hey, you okay? You look tired." "I'm fine." He lingered in the doorway, like he wanted to say something else. Then he just nodded and went upstairs. I kept my eyes on the TV, but my mind was racing. 60-40 split, after debts cleared. Travis owed someone money, a lot of money, and they'd agreed to help him steal my house to pay it off. This wasn't just about gambling anymore. This was organized, calculated, and I needed to know who V was. The appointment with Dr. Brennan was a setup from the start. I knew it the moment I walked into his office and saw the look on his face. Not the neutral professionalism of a real doctor. Something else, something rehearsed. "Mr. Kane, good to see you," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Your wife tells me you've been having some memory issues." "My wife is concerned about nothing," I said. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Why don't we run a few tests, just to be safe?" The tests were a joke. Simple questions designed for someone with actual cognitive impairment. "What year is it? Who's the president? Count backward from 100 by sevens." I answered everything correctly, watching his expression shift from confidence to confusion. "Well," he said finally, "your cognition seems fine, but I'd like to schedule a follow-up. Sometimes these things come and go." "I bet you would." His smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "Nothing. Thank you for your time, doctor." I left before he could say anything else. On the way home, I stopped at a pharmacy and bought a home testing kit for common sedatives. $20 for peace of mind. When I got back, I locked myself in the bathroom and tested the pills Maureen had been giving me. Positive for benzodiazepines, heavy-duty sedatives. I flushed them down the toilet and went downstairs. Maureen was on the phone in the kitchen. She hung up quickly when she saw me. "How was the appointment?" she asked. "Fine. Doctor says I'm healthy." She frowned. "That's not what he told me." "Really? What did he tell you?" "That you're showing early signs of cognitive decline, that we need to monitor you closely." I stared at her. Really stared, taking in every detail of her face. the tiny lines around her mouth, the way her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "You're lying," I said quietly. "Greg, you're lying, and I can prove it." Her expression hardened. "You're confused. This is exactly what Dr. Brennan warned me about." I turned and walked out of the kitchen. There was no point arguing. She'd already decided how this story was going to go, but I had a different ending in mind. That afternoon, I went back to my workshop and started building something. A small device about the size of a deck of cards. It would record audio continuously for up to 12 hours and upload everything to a secure cloud server in real time. I'd designed similar systems in my engineering days, back when I worked on diagnostic equipment for industrial machinery. The principles were the same: capture data, transmit data, store data where it couldn't be tampered with. By evening, I had 3 devices built. I placed one in the living room, hidden inside a decorative lamp, one in the kitchen, tucked behind the microwave, and one in the hallway, pressed into a corner where the wall met the ceiling. Now every conversation in the house would be recorded, every plan they made, every lie they told. I was building a case against them, piece by piece. That night, I didn't go upstairs after dinner. Instead, I sat in the living room, pretending to watch TV. Maureen kept checking on me, finding excuses to walk past. "You should get some rest," she said around 8:30. "I'm not tired." "Greg, you need your sleep." I said I'm not tired. She disappeared into the kitchen. I heard her talking to Travis in low, urgent tones, then footsteps on the stairs. 20 minutes later, Travis came down with a glass of water. "Hey, Dad, Mom said you didn't take your pills earlier. Here?" He held out 2 white capsules. "I don't need them. Come on, don't be difficult." "I'm not taking them, Travis." His jaw tightened. "You're being ridiculous. These are for your health." "My health is fine." "No, it's not. You have dementia. You need medication." I stood up slowly, keeping my eyes locked on his. "I don't have dementia, but I know what those pills are, and I'm done taking them." His face went pale. For just a second, I saw real fear there. Then he recovered. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" We stood there, father and son, staring at each other across a distance that had nothing to do with the physical space between us. Finally, he turned and walked away. I sat back down and waited. The poker game started at 10. Fewer people this time. Only 4, including Remy. They set up quietly, speaking in whispers. One of them kept glancing toward the hallway where I sat. "Thought you said he'd be asleep," he muttered. Travis shook his head. "He will be. Just give it time." "I don't like this. What if he sees us?" "Then we deal with it." The way Travis said it made my stomach turn. I stayed in the living room for another hour, letting them get comfortable. Then I stood up and walked straight into the room. All 4 of them froze. "Evening," I said calmly. Nobody responded. Remy's hand moved toward his jacket pocket. "Nice night for cards," I continued. "Mind if I watch?" Travis found his voice first. "Dad, you should be in bed." "Should I? Why's that?" You're confused. You need rest." I pulled out a chair and sat down at the table. Up close, I could see the chips were real. Professional grade. The cards were new, still crisp. "I'm not confused," I said. "I'm wide awake, and I've been awake for the last 5 nights, watching you turn my home into a casino." The room went completely silent. One of the players, a thin man with a nervous twitch, pushed his chair back. "I'm out." "Sit down," Remy said. His voice was cold, controlled. The thin man sat. I looked at each of them in turn, memorizing faces. Then I stood up. "Enjoy your game, gentlemen. We'll talk again soon." I walked out before anyone could respond. Behind me, I heard frantic whispers. Someone said my name. Travis said something sharp, angry. I didn't care. I'd made my point. They knew I was awake. They knew I was watching. And they had no idea what I was going to do next. I went upstairs and reviewed the audio recordings from my hidden devices. Everything was there. Every word, every threat, every plan. I downloaded it all to multiple USB drives and mailed one to Patricia Ortiz, the lawyer I'd contacted earlier in the week. The others I hid in different locations, one in my workshop, one in a safety deposit box I'd opened that morning, one with a trusted colleague from my engineering days who lived 2 states away. Insurance. Redundancy. The same principles that had guided my work for 40 years. If they came after me, if something happened, the evidence would survive, and they would pay for what they'd tried to do. I spent the next 2 days gathering more evidence. Every photo, every recording, every transaction I could trace. I organized it all on my laptop, creating a timeline that would be impossible to deny. The poker games had been running for 3 months, long enough to become a pattern, long enough to give me leverage. I also started following the money. Travis's bank account was a disaster, constant overdrafts, cash deposits that barely covered his debts. But there was another account too, one in Maureen's name, with regular transfers coming in from an LLC I didn't recognize. I traced the LLC to an address downtown, a law office. When I called them, pretending to be a potential client, they told me they specialized in elder care transitions. Elder care transitions, nursing homes, forced commitments. The pieces were falling into place. On Thursday afternoon, I took a walk to the library and used their computers to search public records. What I found made my hands shake. Maureen had filed preliminary paperwork to have me declared mentally incompetent. The filing was dated 3 weeks ago. It included a statement from Dr. Brennan confirming cognitive decline and recommending supervised care. They were trying to have me committed. Once I was out of the house, they'd sell it, pocket the money, split it with whoever was running the poker games. I sat in the library for an hour, staring at the screen, feeling something cold and sharp settle into my chest. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. Every pill, every lie, every concerned look, all of it was theater, a long con to steal my life. Fine. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one. That evening, I went home and acted normal. Ate dinner, pretended to take my pills, went upstairs at the usual time, but I didn't stay there. At midnight, when the poker game was in full swing, I came back down. This time, I brought a camera, a real one with a tripod. I set it up in the hallway, pointed straight at the living room, and started recording. Then I walked in. "Smile," I said. "You're on film." The reaction was immediate. Chairs scraped. Someone cursed. Remy lunged toward me, but I sidestepped him, keeping the camera between us. "Touch me and you're on video assaulting an old man," I said. "I'm sure the police would love that." He stopped. Travis stood up, his face red. "What are you doing?" "Documenting. Making sure everyone knows what's been happening in my house while I was supposed to be unconscious." "Dad, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. You've been slipping things into what I consume, running illegal gambling out of my home, planning to have me declared unfit so you can take everything I own." Maureen appeared in the doorway. "Greg, please." "Don't," I held up a hand. "Don't try to explain. Don't lie. I'm done listening." The thin man grabbed his jacket. "I'm leaving." "No, you're not," I said. "Not until I get all your names, for my records." "This is crazy," someone muttered. "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you're all trespassing, participating in illegal gambling, and at least 2 of you threatened me." Remy took a step forward. "Old man, you don't know who you're messing with." "Actually, I do. Andrew Remington. 3 prior arrests for bookmaking. Currently on probation." His expression went flat. "How did you—" "I'm an engineer. Research is what I do." I looked at the others. "Walter Gilmore, Craig Denmore. I know all of you. I know where you work, where you live, and I have enough evidence to bury you." The room was silent. Then Travis moved. Fast. He crossed the distance between us and grabbed my arm, trying to take the camera. I jerked away, and he stumbled. For a moment we stood there, breathing hard, staring at each other. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "No, Travis. You made the mistake. 3 months ago, when you decided I was too old to matter." I picked up the camera and walked out. Behind me, I heard chaos. Voices rising. Someone throwing something. The sound of people scrambling to leave. I went upstairs, locked my door, and backed up every file to 3 different locations. Then I sat down and planned the endgame. The next morning, they were gone. Not permanently. Their things were still in their rooms. But neither Maureen nor Travis was home when I came downstairs. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, waiting. They showed up an hour later. Both of them. Their faces looked tight, stressed. "We need to talk," Maureen said. "I agree." We sat across from each other, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals over 3 decades. It felt like a negotiation now, a business meeting. "What do you want?" Travis asked. "The truth?" I said. "All of it." They exchanged glances. Then Maureen spoke. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." "There was a good way?" "Greg, listen. We were trying to help you." I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt bitter coming out. "Help me. By slipping things into what I consume. By planning to have me locked away." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me." Travis leaned forward. Dad, you're sick. You need care. Professional care. We can't do it anymore. I'm not sick. I was being poisoned. The pills were prescribed. By a doctor you paid off. I checked. Brennan isn't even licensed in this state. Maureen's face went white. You want to know what I think? I continued. I think Travis got into debt. Bad debt. The kind that doesn't go away with an apology. And you decided the easiest solution was to get rid of me and take the house. Neither of them denied it. How much? I asked. Travis looked at the floor. $40,000. $40,000. That's what my life is worth to you? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Silence. I stood up. Here's what's going to happen. You have 1 week to figure out your situation. After that, I'm going to the police with everything I have, every recording, every transaction, every threat. Dad, you can't. I can, and I will, unless you give me a reason not to. I walked out, leaving them sitting there. But I knew it wasn't over, not by a long shot. That night, I moved to a hotel, a cheap place off the highway, the kind where nobody asks questions. I paid cash and used a fake name. Then I called Patricia Ortiz. She answered on the second ring. Mr. Kane? I need your help, I said. Tell me everything. I did, all of it. The substances they slipped me, the poker games, the commitment paperwork. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Mr. Kane, she said finally, this is one of the more brazen cases I've seen, but we have options. Such as? Civil suit, restraining orders, criminal charges if the evidence holds up. I don't want a lawsuit. I want them to understand what they've done. That's not really how the legal system works. Then maybe I need to work outside the system, she paused. I can't advise that. You're not advising. I'm just thinking out loud. We talked for another hour. She agreed to hold on to copies of my evidence, just in case something happened to me. Insurance. When I hung up, I felt calmer, more focused. I had options, multiple paths forward, and I was going to use every single one. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Maureen or Travis. No attempts to find me. That made me nervous. On the fourth day, I drove past the house. There were cars in the driveway I didn't recognize. Through the window, I could see people moving around inside. They were having another game, and they thought I was too scared to come back. Wrong. That night, I returned to the hotel and finalized my plan. Every detail, every contingency. I wrote it all down, step by step, like I was designing a machine. When I was done, I read it through 3 times, looking for weaknesses. There weren't any. I slept better that night than I had in months. Tomorrow, I would end this. Saturday evening, I went back to the house. I parked 2 blocks away and walked, keeping to the shadows. It was a warm night, humid, the kind that makes your shirt stick to your back. The house was lit up, music playing, voices drifting through the open windows. They were having a party. I circled around to the backyard and let myself in through the garage. Nobody had bothered to change the locks, probably because they still thought I was too confused to be a threat. Inside, I could hear everything. Laughter, the clink of glasses, Travis telling some story that made everyone laugh. I moved through the darkened rooms, avoiding the areas where people were gathered. My goal was the basement. I'd spent 2 days setting everything up down there. Cameras, audio recorders, equipment I'd built myself using parts from old projects. Now I just needed to activate it. The basement stairs creaked as I descended. I froze, listening for any sign that someone had heard. Nothing. At the bottom, I flipped a switch. Banks of monitors lit up, showing feeds from every room in the house. I could see the poker table, see Maureen serving drinks, see Craig Denmore dealing cards, and I could see Travis sitting at the head of the table like a king. I pulled out my phone and opened a custom app I'd designed. With a few taps, I rerouted all the video feeds to a cloud server. Backup of the backup. Then I started recording. Upstairs, someone shouted something. Laughter followed. I watched the screens, waiting. Patience was key. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they were safe. An hour passed. The game intensified. Money changed hands. Voices got louder. Then I heard Travis say something that made me pause. After next week, we won't have to worry about the old man anymore. Everyone went quiet. You sure? Craig asked. Positive. Maureen finalized the paperwork. He'll be in a facility by Friday. What if he fights it? Travis laughed. He can't fight. He doesn't even understand what's happening. The medication has really messed him up. I felt something cold slide down my spine. They really thought they'd won. I tapped another button on my phone. Upstairs, the living room TV suddenly turned on, showing a live feed of the basement, showing me standing there, watching them. The reaction was instant. Shouting, scrambling. Someone knocked over a chair. I climbed the stairs slowly, taking my time. When I reached the living room, everyone was staring at the screen. At me. "Evening," I said from the doorway. Craig spun around. "How long have you been here?" "Long enough." I held up my phone. "And it's all recorded. Every word." Travis stepped forward. "Dad, listen." "No, you listen. I'm done being the victim in your story. I'm done pretending I don't see what's happening. You're sick. You need help. I'm not sick, but you might be after what I'm about to do." Maureen appeared beside Travis. "Greg, please, let's talk about this." "Talk? You want to talk?" I pulled a document from my jacket. "Let's talk about this. Your plan to have me committed, to liquidate my assets, to split the proceeds with your new friends here." I threw the papers on the poker table. They scattered across the felt, covering the cards and chips. "That's all lies," Travis said, but his voice was shaking. "Is it? Because I have recordings of you discussing it. Emails, bank transactions, everything." The room was silent except for the hum of the TV. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "Everyone who's not family is leaving, now. And if I ever see any of you near my house again, I'll make sure every piece of evidence I have ends up with the police." Nobody moved. "Now," I repeated. Craig was the first to go. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door without looking back. The others followed, one by one, until it was just me, Maureen, and Travis. "You can't do this," Travis said. "I already did. This is my house, too." "Actually, it's not. It's mine. My name on the deed. My mortgage payments. Mine." Maureen started crying. Real tears, the kind that used to make me want to comfort her. Now they just made me tired. "How could you?" she whispered. "How could I?" I stared at her. "You tried to erase me. You sedated me. You planned to lock me away and take everything I've built. And you're asking how I could do this?" We were desperate. So am I. Desperate to get my life back. I walked to the door and opened it. "You both have until tomorrow morning. Then I'm changing the locks." "Where are we supposed to go?" Travis demanded. "That's not my problem anymore." I left them standing there and went back to my hotel. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. They were gone when I returned the next morning. Most of their things were still there. Clothes, personal items, the detritus of 2 lives lived in my space, but Maureen and Travis themselves had vanished. I spent the day cleaning, throwing out the poker tables, the chips, the beer bottles, erasing every trace of what my home had become. It felt good, physical, real. By evening, the house looked almost normal again, almost like it used to be before everything fell apart. I was in the kitchen making dinner when someone knocked on the door. Through the peephole, I saw a man I didn't recognize, middle-aged, wearing an expensive suit. Behind him stood 2 others, both large enough to be intimidating. I opened the door but left the chain on. "Gregory Kane?" the man asked. "Who's asking?" "My name is Vincent Mallory. I represent certain business interests that your son has been associated with." "Travis isn't here?" "I'm aware. That's why I'm talking to you." "I don't have anything to say." "Mr. Kane, your son owes a significant amount of money. Money that was supposed to be repaid by now." "Not my problem." Mallory smiled. It wasn't friendly. "Actually, it is. Because the collateral Travis offered was this house. Your house." I felt ice in my veins. "He can't offer what he doesn't own." "Can't he? According to our agreement, once you were declared incompetent, the property would transfer to him, and then to us, to settle his debt. That's not happening." "It already is happening, Mr. Kane. The paperwork is filed. The process has begun." "Then I'll stop it." "You can try, but these things take time, and in the meantime, Travis's debt continues to grow, with interest." The 2 men behind Mallory shifted their weight. A subtle reminder. "What do you want?" I asked. $45,000, cash, by the end of the week. That's $5,000 more than Travis owed. "Interest," Mallory adjusted his cufflinks, plus administrative fees. "And if I don't pay? Then we'll have to pursue alternative collection methods, which I assure you would be unpleasant for everyone involved." He handed me a business card. Plain white, just a phone number. "Think about it, Mr. Kane. But don't think too long." They left. I stood in the doorway, watching them drive away, feeling the weight of this new problem settle onto my shoulders. Travis hadn't just put himself in danger. He'd put me there too. I called Patricia Ortiz. They can't enforce that, she said after I explained. Your son doesn't have legal authority to use your property as collateral. Tell that to Vincent Mallory. I will, if necessary. But Greg, these people don't care about legality. If they're serious, this could get dangerous. I know. Maybe you should consider paying them, just to make this go away. With what money? My retirement fund? The savings I spent 40 years building? It's better than the alternative. Which is? She didn't answer right away. Just be careful, please. I hung up and sat in the silence of my empty house. $45,000. A lifetime of savings wiped out to cover my son's mistakes, or I could fight. Again. I was so tired of fighting. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running scenarios in my head. Every option led somewhere bad. Around 3 a.m, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Kane? A woman's voice. This is Mercy General Hospital. Your wife, Maureen Kane, was brought in an hour ago. She's asking for you. My stomach dropped. What happened? She was in an accident. A fall. The doctors are evaluating her now, but she's stable. I'll be right there. I drove to the hospital in a daze, barely paying attention to the road. The emergency room was bright and sterile. A nurse directed me to a curtained area in the back. Maureen was lying on a gurney, her face pale. Her arm was in a sling. Greg, she whispered when she saw me. I stood at the foot of the bed, not coming closer. What happened? I fell. Down some stairs. Where's Travis? She looked away. I don't know. He left after you kicked us out. You're lying. I'm not... Maureen, I'm done with lies. What really happened? Her eyes filled with tears. They came to the apartment we were staying at. Vincent's men. They wanted to know where Travis was, and when I said I didn't know, She gestured at her arm. This is a warning, Greg. They said next time it'll be worse. I felt sick. Where's Travis? I don't know. He took off 2 days ago. He's scared. He should be. Greg, please, you have to help him. Why would I do that? Because he's your son. I stared at her, at this woman I'd spent half my life with. He stopped being my son when he tried to erase me. I turned to leave. Greg, wait. No, you made your choices, both of you. Now live with them. I walked out of the hospital and didn't look back, but driving home, I couldn't shake the image of Maureen's face, the fear in her eyes, the bruises I'd seen on her wrist. Vincent Mallory wasn't playing games, and if I didn't do something, people were going to get hurt. Maybe even me. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to pay Mallory, but I wasn't going to sit around waiting for him to come back either. I was going to find Travis, and I was going to end this, one way or another. The next 2 days were a blur of phone calls and planning. I liquidated some investments, pulling together $30,000. Not enough to pay off Mallory, but enough to negotiate. I also hired a private investigator to find Travis. If Mallory was going to keep coming after me, I needed leverage, and Travis was the only leverage I had. On Wednesday, the investigator called. Found him, he said. There's a motel off Route 9. Room 23. He's been there since Monday. You sure it's him? Positive. Saw him myself. I drove out there that afternoon. The motel was exactly what you'd expect. Cracked parking lot, flickering neon sign, doors that opened directly onto the street. Room 23 was at the far end. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Travis, I know you're in there. Movement inside. Then the door cracked open. My son looked terrible. Unshaven, eyes red-rimmed, clothes rumpled as if he'd been sleeping in them for days. Dad? We need to talk. I can't deal with this right now. Too bad. Let me in. He hesitated, then stepped aside. The room was a disaster. Empty food containers, clothes everywhere, the smell of stale cigarettes and desperation. What do you want? Travis asked. Answers. The whole story. No more lies. He sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. It started small, just friendly games with people from work. Then I started losing. A lot. And Craig introduced me to some people who could lend me money. Vincent Mallory. Yeah, at first it was fine. I thought I could pay it back, but the interest... He laughed bitterly. The interest kept piling up. And then they said if I couldn't pay in cash, I could offer something else. The house. They said it would be easy. Get you declared incompetent, transfer the deed, they'd take their cut, and we'd split what was left. And you thought that was a good plan. I was desperate, Dad. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked for help. From who? You? You would have told me I was being foolish, that I should have known better. You're right. I would have. Because it's true. He looked up at me, and for just a moment, I saw the kid he used to be. The one who built model rockets in the garage. The one who looked up to me. Then the moment passed. What now? He asked. Now you're going to help me fix this. How? We're going to meet with Mallory, together, and we're going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Dad, you don't understand. These people don't negotiate. Everyone negotiates. You just need the right leverage. I pulled out my phone and showed him a video. It was from one of my hidden cameras showing Craig Denmore discussing payment schedules with Travis. In the background, you could clearly hear them talking about illegal activities, bookmaking, loan sharking, even some light extortion. You recorded that? Travis whispered. I record everything, and I have about 20 hours of footage just like it, enough to put Mallory and his entire operation away for years. You can't use that. They'll come after you. They're already coming after me. At least this way, I have something to defend myself with. Travis was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, what do we do? We call Mallory, set up a meeting, and we end this. I dialed the number on the card he'd given me. Mallory answered on the second ring. Mr. Kane, I want to meet. To discuss payment? To discuss terms. A pause. I'm listening. Face to face. Tomorrow night. Just you and me. That's unusual. So is everything else about this situation? Another pause. Fine. There's a warehouse on Industrial Drive. Number 47. 8 p.m. I'll be there. I hung up. Travis was staring at me. Dad, that's crazy. You can't just walk into their territory. Watch me. They could hurt you. They could try. But I'm betting they won't. Not until they see what I'm offering. And what are you offering? I smiled. Everything they want, and nothing they expect. The next day, I spent preparing, and I made copies of all my evidence. Multiple copies, stored in multiple locations. I wrote detailed instructions for Patricia Ortiz about what to do if I didn't come back. And I built one more device. A fail-safe, essentially. If I didn't check in every 12 hours, everything I had would automatically be sent to law enforcement, local media, and several federal agencies. Insurance. By evening, I was as ready as I'd ever be. Travis wanted to come with me, but I refused. This is my fight, I told him. You stay here. If I'm not back by midnight, call Patricia Ortiz. She'll know what to do. Dad. I mean it, Travis. Stay here. I drove to the warehouse alone. The warehouse was exactly what I'd imagined. Concrete floors, high ceilings, shadows in every corner. The kind of place where bad things happen. I arrived 15 minutes early and parked where I could see anyone approaching. My phone was recording, linked to a cloud backup that would automatically send to Patricia Ortiz if I didn't check in within 2 hours. Insurance. Mallory arrived at 8 exactly, flanked by the same 2 men from before. They looked even more intimidating in the dim light. Mr. Kane, Mallory said, punctual. I appreciate that. Let's get to business. Of course. Do you have the money? I have $30,000, cash. His expression didn't change. That's not what we agreed. It's what I have. Take it or leave it. You realize that puts you $15,000 short, plus additional interest for the delay. I realize that your entire operation is built on illegal gambling and loan sharking. I also realize that I have video evidence of your employees discussing these activities in detail. Now his expression changed. Is that a threat? It's a fact. One of his men moved forward, but Mallory held up a hand. Let's say I believe you have this evidence, he said carefully. What exactly are you proposing? $30,000 and you walk away. No more contact with me or my son. The debt is cleared. And the evidence? Stays with me, as long as you honor the agreement. Mallory laughed. It was a cold sound. You're either very brave or very stupid, Mr. Kane. I'm an engineer. I solve problems. This isn't a problem you can engineer your way out of. Isn't it? You have 2 choices. Take my money and walk away clean, or refuse and spend the next few years fighting federal charges. I've already made copies of everything and given them to my lawyer with instructions to go public if anything happens to me. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and played a video clip. Craig's voice, clear as day. We've got 3 bookies running games across the city. Mallory takes 40% off the top. Mallory's jaw tightened. I have hours of this, I said. Names, dates, locations, everything. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he gestured to one of his men, who brought forward a tablet. Mallory tapped something, then showed me the screen. Your son's debt, he said. Right here in our system. $45,000. I watched as he typed, then hit a button. The number changed to 0. There, Mallory said. Debt cleared. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. And the $30,000? Keep it. Call it compensation for your trouble. I wasn't sure if I believed him, but I nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Mr. Kane. Because, if that evidence ever surfaces, if I ever see it used against me or my associates, this conversation ends very differently. Do you understand? Perfectly. Good. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Your son is a liability. If he comes near my operation again, there won't be any negotiations. Make sure he understands that. I will. They left. I stood in the empty warehouse, listening to the echo of their footsteps fade away, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. It was done. Almost. I drove back to the motel where Travis was waiting. He was pacing when I knocked and practically yanked the door open. Well? It's handled. The debt's gone. His knees actually buckled. He sat down hard on the bed. How? Doesn't matter. What matters is you're clear. But Travis, listen to me. This is your last chance. No more gambling. No more schemes. You get a real job, you fix your life, and you stay away from people like Mallory. I will, I swear. I'm serious. Because I won't save you again. I know, Dad. I know. I looked at him, this man I'd raised, and felt nothing but exhaustion. Your mother's in the hospital. You should go see her. She okay? She will be, but she needs you. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I left him there and drove home through the dark streets, feeling the weight of the past few weeks finally starting to lift. But there was one more thing I needed to do. One final move to make sure they could never come after me again. The next day, I met with Patricia Ortiz in her office downtown. I need you to do something for me, I said. What is it? I want to put the house in a trust, an irrevocable trust. She raised an eyebrow. That's a significant decision. Once it's done, you can't undo it. I know, that's the point. Who do you want as beneficiary? The Veterans Community Foundation. She was quiet for a moment. Mr. Kane, are you sure about this? What about your family? My family tried to steal it from me. This way they never can. You understand that means when you pass away, the house will be sold and the proceeds will go to the foundation. Your wife and son won't inherit anything. Good. She studied my face, then nodded. All right. I'll draw up the paperwork. It took 3 days to finalize everything. 3 days of signatures and notarizations and legal language that made my head spin. But when it was done, I felt lighter than I had in years. The house was no longer mine, but it was also no longer theirs. They couldn't take what didn't exist. Now there was only one thing left. Friday evening, I called Maureen and Travis to the house. They arrived together, both looking nervous. Maureen's arm was still in a sling. Travis couldn't meet my eyes. Sit down, I said. We gathered around the kitchen table, the same place where this had all started falling apart. I've made some decisions, I began, about the house, about us. Greg, Maureen started. Let me finish. I've spent the last few weeks thinking about what you did, how you tried to erase me, mislead me, take everything I built. They both stared at the table. And I've decided that forgiveness isn't an option, not real forgiveness, not the kind where we pretend this didn't happen and go back to being a family. Maureen started crying quietly. But, I continued, I'm not vindictive. I'm not going to destroy you. So here's what's going to happen. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. I've transferred the house into a trust, an irrevocable trust that benefits the Veterans Community Foundation. When I pass away, the house will be sold and the proceeds will go to them. Travis looked up sharply. What? You heard me. You wanted the house? You can't have it. Nobody can. It's gone. That's... He struggled for words. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? We're your family. You stopped being my family when you decided I was worth more eliminated than alive. Maureen was sobbing now, but I felt nothing, just cold clarity. You both can stay here for now, I said. But there are conditions, new conditions, and if you break them, you're out, permanently. What conditions? Travis asked quietly. First, no more gambling. Not one card, not one chip, not $1. You get a real job, and you keep it. Okay. Second, no more schemes, No more lies. If I catch either of you in a lie, any lie, you're done. They both nodded. Third, you both get help. Real help. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes to figure out why you thought slipping things into what I consumed and trying to take over my life was acceptable. Maureen wiped her eyes. We'll do it. Whatever you want. I'm not finished. Fourth, you pay me back. Every cent you took from my accounts. Every unauthorized charge. I have a list, and you're going to repay every dollar. With interest. Travis's face went pale. Dad, that's going to take years. Then it takes years. You wanted to steal from me. Now you get to pay it back the hard way. The room was silent, except for Maureen's quiet crying. And finally, I said, if either of you ever tries to have me declared incompetent again, if I ever find out you're planning anything remotely similar to what you just tried, I will make every piece of evidence I have public. Every recording, every document, every lie. The whole world will know what you did. I stood up and looked at both of them. Those are my terms. Accept them or get out tonight. Your choice. Travis looked at Maureen. She looked back at him. Then they both turned to me and nodded. We accept, Maureen whispered. Good. Then we start tomorrow. Travis, you're going to start looking for jobs, real ones. Maureen, you're going to find a therapist. Both of you are going to show me, day by day, that you understand what you did and why it was wrong. I picked up my folder and walked toward the stairs, then stopped. One more thing. From now on, I sleep with my door locked. I prepare my own meals. I take no medication unless I've confirmed it myself with a doctor of my choosing. And if I ever wake up feeling sedated again, I'm calling the police immediately. No warnings, no second chances. Do you understand? They both nodded. I went upstairs, locked my door, and sat on my bed. The house was still mine, for now. The danger had passed. Mallory was satisfied. Travis's debt was cleared. But the trust was in place. The evidence was secured. And they absolutely knew, that I was watching. Always watching. They'd tried to erase me. Tried to turn me into a confused old man they could manipulate and discard. Instead, I'd become something they never expected. A threat they couldn't eliminate. A problem they couldn't solve. I lay back on my bed and closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the past few weeks settle into something manageable. Something I could carry. They'd wounded me, betrayed me, tried to destroy me. But I was still here, still standing, still in control. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. The next 2 weeks passed in tense silence. Travis found a job at a warehouse, loading trucks. It was hard work, physical work, the kind that left him exhausted at the end of each day. He came home with sore muscles and dirt under his fingernails, but he didn't complain. Maureen started seeing a therapist twice a week. I made her show me the appointment confirmations. She also went back to work at the dental clinic, putting in extra hours to start repaying what they owed me. I watched them both carefully, looking for any sign of deception, any hint that they were planning something. But they seemed genuinely broken, defeated, good. Every evening, I'd check my hidden cameras, make sure no unauthorized visitors came by, verify that the poker tables stayed gone, that my home remained mine. The recordings were clean, no late-night games, no whispered conversations about getting rid of me, just two people trying to rebuild something they'd shattered. I didn't trust it. Not yet, maybe not ever. But it was a start. On Saturday morning, 2 weeks after the confrontation, I was in my workshop when Travis knocked on the door. Dad, can I talk to you? Doors open. He came in, looking uncomfortable. He'd lost weight, I noticed. The physical labor was leaning him out, making him look younger somehow. Now, I wanted to say... He paused, struggling with the words. I wanted to say I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything. I kept working on the device I was building, a new security system for the house, better than the last one. Sorry doesn't fix what you did, I said. I know, but I need to say it anyway. What we did to you, it was wrong, more than wrong. It was evil. I looked up at him. Yes, it was. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that I understand what I did, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it right. We'll see. He nodded and turned to leave, then stopped. Dad, thank you for not giving up on us completely. I didn't do it for you, I said. I did it because destroying you wouldn't have made me feel better. It would have just made me like you. He flinched but nodded again. Yeah, I guess that's fair. After he left, I sat there for a long time, thinking about forgiveness and revenge and what it means to win. I'd beaten them, taken away everything they wanted, made them understand the consequences of their actions. But I hadn't destroyed them, hadn't turned them over to the police, hadn't made their crimes public. Why? I thought about that question for days, turned it over in my mind like a puzzle I couldn't quite solve. And then I realized, because I'm not them. They'd been willing to erase me to solve their problems, to sedate me, lie about me, lock me away. I could have done the same, could have ruined them completely, but that would have meant becoming the kind of person who destroys family even when they deserve it. And I refused to be that person. So instead, I'd found a middle path. Punishment without destruction, consequences without cruelty. The house was secured, my safety was guaranteed, and they were learning, slowly, what it meant to earn back even a fraction of trust. It wasn't forgiveness, not really, but it was enough. Another week passed. Maureen made dinner one evening. A peace offering, she said. I watched her prepare every ingredient, making sure nothing was added that shouldn't be there. Old habits. We ate in silence, the three of us around that kitchen table. It felt wrong, like we were playing at being a family when the reality was something much darker. But we were there, together, and nobody was trying to poison anyone. Progress, I suppose. After dinner, I went to my workshop and reviewed my security footage. Everything was clean, no threats, no schemes, just a house where 3 damaged people were trying to coexist. I backed up all my files, as I did every night. The evidence was still there, still ready to be deployed if needed. Insurance against future betrayals. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Trust, once broken, never fully heals. You can rebuild, you can move forward, but the cracks remain, permanent reminders of what was lost. I could live with cracks. What I couldn't live with was being erased. That night, I slept well for the first time in months. Really slept, without medication, without fear, without the constant vigilance that had defined my existence for so long. The house was secure, the threats were neutralized, and I was still here, still myself, still in control of my own life. They'd tried to take that from me, tried to turn me into a confused, helpless victim they could manipulate and discard, but I'd fought back, used my mind, my training, my experience to outthink and outmaneuver them at every turn. And I'd won. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but decisively. The house would never be theirs, the money would be repaid, and they would spend years proving they understood what they'd done. I'd taken everything they wanted and put it forever out of reach. That was my revenge. Cold, calculated, and absolutely final. As I lay there in the darkness, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not happiness. The betrayal cut too deep for that. But satisfaction. The knowledge that I'd faced the worst thing my family could do to me, and I'd survived. More than survived. I'd emerged victorious. They'd underestimated me, and thought age meant weakness, thought confusion meant helplessness. They were wrong. And now they'd live with that mistake for the rest of their lives. 3 more weeks passed. Travis kept working. Maureen kept going to therapy. I kept watching, recording, verifying. The pattern held. On a Tuesday evening, exactly 6 weeks after the final confrontation, I called a family meeting. They both looked nervous when they sat down at the kitchen table, wondering if this was it, if I was finally kicking them out for good. But that wasn't why I'd called them together. I've been reviewing your progress, I said. Travis, you've held your job for a month. Maureen, you've attended every therapy session. You've both been making payments toward what you owe me. They waited, not sure where this was going. I'm not saying I trust you, I continued. I'm not sure I ever will again. But you're trying. I can see that. We are, Maureen said quietly. We really are. Good. Because here's what happens next. You continue doing exactly what you're doing. Keep your jobs. Keep going to therapy. Keep making payments. And if you can maintain this for 6 months, we'll talk about what comes after. What comes after? Travis asked. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Together. It wasn't much, not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just a tentative acknowledgement that maybe, possibly, we could find a way forward. They both looked relieved, like they'd been holding their breath for weeks. Thank you, Dad, Travis said. I nodded but didn't respond. Words were cheap, actions mattered, and I would be watching their actions for a long, long time. That night, I updated my will, made sure everything was documented, made sure that if something happened to me, if they tried anything again, the consequences would be immediate and severe. Then I went to bed, locked my door, and fell asleep listening to the quiet sounds of my house, still mine, still secure. They'd tried to take it, tried to take everything, and they'd failed. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything.